Lessons learned. Lessons learned is the learning gained from the process of performing the project. That's a definition that we'll use from the PMI. Here are some of the lessons learned steps. We're going to organize a session, defining the agenda and the objectives of the session, facilitate the session. It could be done by the project manager or an external facilitator. Compile and organize all the lessons, store them in a central and easy to access repository, and then disseminate the lessons learned to other projects. The lessons learned session, when we begin the process to determine what's going to be our content, we first need to determine the participation. These are the team members or key stakeholders that will be invited to this session. And they're invited because they can contribute to the lessons that we need to capture. We also need to be clear about defining the purpose and the outcomes of this session. And we also need to collect key information that we need to make available to the people who will be in this session. And this will be information that will help them remember some of the key elements that happened to the project. That may include project results, the schedule and the budget performance, issue log. That is an important one. It will contain a lot of the information on how we as a project manage the issues and how successful with them. Also, risk matrix, project audits and evaluations are also important information that you can share at that moment, and lessons learned during the project. With that information, then you need to create and set your agenda. You will need to make sure that there is a purpose, specific outcomes that will come out of it. You also set the meeting rules. In the sessions, you need to explain that it's going to be an opportunity to highlight project performance, process of discussion of all the issues in the project, and ideas and recommendations. The rules that you need to make sure that are visible and everybody understand them is that there needs to be open and honest feedback. This is a time for everybody to be open about what is happening, but also honest about the realities of what happened in the project. That feedback is part of what lessons learned are so important. No finger pointing or assigning blame. This is not an opportunity or a time to find out why we did wrong and who was to blame. We need to find out why we did wrong and what we can do to fix it in the future. So it's not about whether somebody did it or didn't do it. This is an opportunity to look at what happened and how we can improve it. Make sure that people understand there has to be a courtesy and respect while others are speaking, so everybody has a chance to speak. All feedback is valid, no matter if it's small or it may not seem significant at the moment. Everything has to be captured. And everybody has a voice. And that, as a facilitator, you need to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak, to raise their opinions, to speak about their experiences on the project. That's why you invite all these people to the lessons, so they can contribute to the process. Here are some questions that can help you in that process, whether you are facilitating the session or not. The first one is to see what went well. That, as a team, we recommend it can be repeated. Then what went amiss, what was wrong, that needs to be avoided in the future. What would you do different the next time? What are your insights or personal observations that could help others in a similar situation or in future projects? And then what topics did we miss that should be discussed? That could open to any areas that maybe during the time you're preparing the session you forgot, somebody can raise it, and that's a good opportunity. One technique that is very useful is to make sure that when people are answering those questions, they write it down in colored papers. Each color can represent a specific category that you define at the beginning of the session. And when people start answering those questions, they can write it down, take turns to speak, and then they place it on the board. By the end of the session, you will have a complete view of all the lessons of the project. That is also a way to visualize the answers so that people can look at what other people are writing. That could help avoid having duplicate items. But also by reading some of those issues, people can remember something that happened in the past, and they can bring other ideas or suggestions. that will be part of the document of lessons learned. So this is a good technique that you can use in your project during the lessons learned. Here are some of the areas that you can include during your review and your session. We have the core process and support process, all the management plans about scope, budget, stakeholder, team management. You can also discuss in terms of phases of the project during the planning phase or the monitoring phase. You can also look at conflict and issue management, communications. Supervision is another one that might be interesting, not only from what the team received in terms of supervision from the project manager, but also supervision from the steering committee or senior management. Project support is another interesting area in terms of support they receive from finance, procurement, and human resources. The use of tools and methods in the project, also an area that you can use to discover some of the lessons. And you can leave a space for any other areas that may be specific to the type of project. Here are some tips that will help you during your lessons learned. Include all experiences, whether they're positive and negative. This is not a moment to just say everything was right on the project. Every project has problems, so it's important that you include also the negative aspects within, because that's where you learn the most. Obtain feedback as quickly as possible before people forget. Don't wait too long to get this lessons learned session. Try to get it during the early stages of your process closing phase, and your team's still on board. They have some time and they will be able to remember what happened in the project. Don't wait too long, because they might forget, and it's going to be harder for them to get the kind of quality you need in those lessons learned. Document the lessons learned throughout the project. Don't just wait until the end of the project to have this session. It's good practice that you may have it at midterm during the life of the project, or specific milestones where you can have a special session, because they will help you while you're managing the project. Lessons learned at the end of the project would only help future projects, but you can have a smaller lessons learned sessions during the life of the project, and you capture those lessons, those improvements, those recommendations in your current project. And you need to make those lessons learned accessible to other projects. All that experience that was gained by the project during all that time, it is kind of an asset. It's like a currency, a knowledge currency, that other projects will be able to take advantage and be able to use that experiences to help them improve their own projects. One way to do that is to have a knowledge sharing session. Again, you can invite different people in your organization where you're going to be presenting the lessons learned. And you can have a presentation with the slides, videos, pictures about the project, and you invite stakeholders and teams from other projects in your organization. It's up to you to define who's going to be coming to that. The idea is that you invite people who you know will benefit from the lessons you learn in the project. Present both successes and failures and what the team learned from both. That's the most important area, is that when you show them, you present that there were instances where the project had a challenge, had a difficulty, something went wrong, but the team was able to fix it, was able to find a solution to the problem. That is important, because that helps the audience connect to how you were able to solve the problem, because they will be able to get that lesson and apply it in their own projects. And sometimes that's even more important about how people use the lessons learned, more in terms of what went wrong than what went right. And find other opportunities to disseminate lessons learned. You can distribute copies of the document to the participants, put it on their website, on the organization knowledge sharing site, or share it with other members or communities or project management associations or groups that you are part, that will benefit from the lessons learned. It's a good practice. It's something that also highlights the things that went right with the project, and how the project was also to manage some of the problems that existed. And it's part of the good practice in project management.